Good morning. Today is January 23, 2023. So it's coincident 23 and 23. And now it's around 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, not quite. It's close to afternoon, I guess. So what we discussed today is about modern or futuristic military war that can be translated as a world-class peace. It might sound confusing between war and peace, but it's in the same token of a coin. So hope it's not confusing after you hear my explanation. The conventional and dumb war that perceived to be involved 1,000 parts and 100,000 people is a yesterday war. This is an old-fashioned war. It's always exhaustive and seems no stopping, or there is no time frame that looks visible, like when it's gonna end, or when this war will last. Let's say 2 weeks war, or make a negotiation. Okay, we're gonna have a war, but let's do it in 3 weeks. But it seems impossible. So war is always be exhaustive and cost too much money, cost too much life, cost too much destruction and despair. So compared to scientific and more advanced intelligence that take the war to the brain source, or initiator that can be eliminated quickly before it forms a nation war, or a fixation of having war. So the first time when people fixated about having war with the neighbors, that's the war is start being formed. Military school and academy has to start developing the academic studies in focusing just on an anti-war research and studies. This could be beneficial because it's gonna be the whole picture of war is actually peace. The war to create peace. So this whole academic, they're dedicated to calculate and design a strategy to kill or end the war at earliest possible time. Even to kill the notion or thought of having a war. Every single factors has to be integrated and weighted or calculated. To name some which is like humanity, economic, environment, medical, social, cultures, beside military machine, and the general or soldiers. So the whole reason is a wasteful war that cost everybody, cost the world, cost the U.S., cost the Europe, cost the Russian million of people to die or maim, and billion or trillion dollars wasted for nothing. So think of how much it costs to eliminate a source of war compared to billion or trillion dollars wasted just to have a war, compared to just eliminate the brain that want to have a war. So how cheap it's gonna be? Just a brain. Maybe just use a microwave or something that targeted to the brain to correct the brain. That way the brain will not fixated with the war itself or warmongering. So aggregate those into a numbers of lost, there'll be too much. War scenarios have to calculate each possible of loss or cost from a complete set of consequences and multi-factors that we can imagine. So anything that you can imagine about the consequence of war, that's how it's so costly, so much that it's just create a snowball. Now wisely and scientifically calculate how much we save in funds, in human casualty, in property damage, and etc. If we can just keep on living in peace with a mutual understanding with the neighboring countries, or to live and to let live. Or what if we eliminate the war initiator at earliest stage and maintain society and fraternal among neighboring nations that keep on checking on politicians or war actors, or apply a stop check or on a warrior lord. Even military has to discipline itself or apply self-restraint from creating an unpatriotic war idea that will eventually kill everybody and himself. Would that qualify as patriotic when kill everybody from his countrymen and himself? That's not patriotic. Patriotic is about saving life. Especially the elderly general who uses pride and emotion most of the time instead of rational, well calculated military creative ideas. To name a few, in stopping or preventing the war is mostly the target around the war brain and step in which the brain keep emitting a message in a war mode. Unstoppable brain in constructing a war scenarios will create war absolutely. It can hype and hype and hype and become a real war. But stopping the brain from forming a war is way cheaper and more sophisticated and more scientific a war can be. As we all aware that war will usually come from lies and deceit and pure emotion. So why are we using force to deal with emotion? We are in need of a bunch of psycho and narcissist expert to be the ambassadors as the guardian of peace. So peace can be fostered by the ambassadors of peace. But are we having ambassadors that most of the work is dedicated for peace? That's another question. It is funny listening to so many misanalysis with theses about ways to stop the war, like the uh, the expert called Justin Crump, a military analyst, saying that providing a little weapon to Ukraine will escalate the Russian bombing as the war is out of control or will last longer and spill out. That's not true. The effect everywhere and involving everyone and will bring carnage to the civilian. And this is the antithesis of our suspicious thought as an instrument of Putin propaganda indirectly by saying if they get powerful, Putin will punish you with more death, which is irrational knowing a powerful military means unstoppable to take back the territory from Putin. It's obvious supplying non-lethal war aid to Ukraine will not help Ukraine in defending their legal territory, but instead making them lose. So no matter the Ukraine hate lethal, no matter what, um, providing Ukraine with lethal weapon or not, Putin still desires to destroy Ukraine. And the underlying problem here is another skeptical thought of on finishing the war is like the need of Leopard tanks that will do what? The obvious need in Ukraine is a precise guided missiles that able to reach a targeted military or military command, military depot, or any military recruit just to get a maximum casualty that resulted in stopping the war all at once. A missile that can trace back where the launch pad and eliminate them, or mercilessly that can eliminate the military school and barrack that will be used to attack, or even the president palace or compound is not off limit. This way, the war stopping process never shy in eliminating the cost of war. So, like that gentleman named or professor named Justin Crump, he could be an agent of propaganda that scare everybody from providing an aid or war aid, sophisticated war aid to Ukraine. Speed up in finishing or stopping the war while the military personnel are fatigued is by bringing in criminal sadistic prisoners to fight the front line, just like what the Wagner did, while the military professional taking a break or preparing another wave of war. This is solution is provided by Pergozin, the Wagner owner, which is now is blacklisted under the U.S. since what it does mostly is a war crime. So this was stated by Anthony Blinken yesterday, that Wagner company is a criminal company. So the world must not deal with Wagner or face the consequence from the U.S. government. While the real problem is Ukraine is that they never want to be one of the Russian Federation. And the solution is pretty easy. Let them be. To live and to let live. We see a huge vast of Russian land from Asia stretched to Europe, while they are not doing well or they're absolutely not rich. So it's better to just concentrate in taking care or building the existing region and population so it can be well off instead of invading other countries. Because that's not a show of wellness. It's just a show of massive land conquering and just creating poverty everywhere. So instead of spreading backwardness to Ukraine, if Russia is full of gold and each door in Russia made of gold, automatically Ukraine will be gladly to join the Russian Federation. But what happened is not. And all over the world will worship Putin and Prigozhin, who only focus on enriching their people. If they can make each door in Russia made of gold, without corrupt, of course, because they are so corrupt. The way to stop the war believed by most countries if they are not getting involved or remain calm and peaceful. To be frank, in another word, they don't care at all if it eventually has a direct impact to starve them to death themselves. Since the war creating disruption in wheat supplies, so they can't eat bread, so they're all dying and they don't care, they just want a piece. How could it be? So something's not funny here. While economically they are devastated, or everybody in Africa or part of Asia in a drought area will be starving and will die of malnutrition. So is it a must to get involved deeply to stop the war by correcting or solving the problem or even sending military aid and or military personnel to stop the war or defend Ukraine right on the border immediately instead of let's be peaceful and not involved and let's be starved. So rationally, everybody who cannot eat in Africa should come and rescue Ukraine so they can have wheat supply back normal again. Instead, what happened? Knowing most of their people starving from wheat and pesticide and fertilizer that mainly supplied by Ukraine, so they can't plant food. They are disappearing now. There's no fertilizer, there's no pesticide. So they're all hungry and starving. So economically devastated. Is it can be called stupid to acknowledge it and too afraid to do something about it, to correct it as soon as possible, or they just prefer to stay starving. It doesn't really make sense that most of them, not most of them, but lots of number African that are starving is not on the side of Ukraine. They either abstain or taking side with Putin. So it's like denying their own destiny. The longer the war will exhaust any country or resources or number of troops, and unavoidable building and houses be leveling and annihilated. So realizing this, might as well stop the war. But for how long? And what cost compared to no war or no cost? Military top ranks are most likely be rotated or be replaced in a fast pace. Does that mean military men are happy to be the central figures in a war and get noted or rotated or retired at the end of the day? They should be motivated instead of demotivated. So they got all notion about going to the war will glorify the military. It's not. In a fast-paced war, people get replaced. General get replaced, colonel get replaced, because that's when they need to be proof and the reliable general or colonel or commander or not. So then this should motivate all military to have a peace, because in a peace, the bride can always be can be accelerate and become general in a scientific way, in a leadership way, but not in a war. In a war is about proving who can conquer a region fast enough, then can be promoted, but still get maimed or invalid or crippled. The US has been dividing the world politically and militarily. Will there be any substitute to stop the war? So any other party like NATO who is very reluctant in any involvement in the war, even though the war has reached their doorstep. So literally Ukraine is the NATO war doorstep. Deterrent could use the show of force by military might. NATO and Germany specifically is very reluctant to stop the war at all costs immediately. We suspect what is happening to the Germany by not providing Ukraine with a tank. And plus, beside, what's tank gonna do knowing that Ukraine has so many javelin that can destroy any Russian tank? So it's the question of chicken and egg. They probably could use the tank to advance a little bit instead of just human shield and javelin. So they can be, maybe it means to advance in an attack, or it means can be for use for aggression, that what Germany afraid of. The aggression, first aggression to take back or defend their territory, and later on, since it's successful, it will be unstoppable rolling to Moscow. So Ukraine will take over Russia. That's what Germany afraid of. So these people tend to escalate the war gradually by not providing the solution right away. That means, okay, let it gradually escalate. So let's have another way, it's called military industrial, they involve in getting more profit out of the war. So although it is important to end it now, but lack of war leadership, like right now, there's no war leadership, like how the war is gonna be conducted, how it's gonna end, how it be focused on. It seems like everybody has their own idea. So there's no integration of idea or command. Although we have a NATO command, his name is Stoltenberg. So he needs to lead the war to speed up or to just drag it like it is. Some of the countries, after suffering an attack, like during World War II by the German, they did not show any grateful after the US rescued them. The US sent like millions of soldiers to the Europe and rescue European from Nazi that time. So they did not show any grateful. Even Russian was rescued by the US. What if the US never arrived in Europe? What happened to the Moscow? What happened to the Kremlin? What happened to the Soviet Federation of Soviet? So what happened to them? The German will run over them. So did they say thank you to the US? No, Russian will not gonna do that. So what is wrong with the US propaganda in not reminding them that the US keep rescuing the world most of the time? Even after the war, the US also rescued the Europe by Marshall Plan. That way they can rebuild Europe again. So they are in a deep debt to the USA during World War II. and there is no showing they say thank you or grateful. It seems USA does not care in showing in rescue mission, does not care in playing propaganda. They just war done, done. They're not trying to keep reminding people how they indebted to the US. Without the US rescue, Hitler still gonna be there until now, maybe because he's gonna invent how to outlive everybody. The common military and intelligence decision or detection. So among these nations, the military and the intelligence should cooperate to detect the failure they are shown to military cockiness and underestimate information and pattern from the obvious tendency until logically most likely to happen. So the war is forming and forming, but a lot of military general they become cocky and downplay, like the 9/11 sign was downplayed because they were all cocky and they all not working together. They independently glorious, have more pride than the other. The FBI doesn't talk to the CIA. So it's right now what happened is disintegration. So the 9/11 is the proof how this pattern not being detected, how this pattern was not dealt properly. That's 9/11. That's another one, January 6th in the US, or January 7th in Brasilia, in the capital of Brazil. And this attack on Brasilia by Bolsonaro people was successful because it's almost successful and managed to destroy and create destruction in the capital. And in the contrary, so in Brazil and the US, it seems like to let it be. It seems to just sit by on the sideline. So is the Brazilian military and police security forces. They're all sitting on the sideline, let it happen, let it occur, and then see what happens. If they can have a momentum, then they will join or something. On the contrary, the German has been decisive in using information and they choose to round up the people, the plotter of a Congress takeover. But across the board, the power of liberal countries are believe in the democracy resilience compared to the intelligent info. Any detection and finding of wrong accusation to rile up hate and incite a war must be crushed immediately to avoid the unnecessary war. They include a counterintelligence and infiltration for their self-destruction if they can infiltrate, and chaos to prevent the war from within if possible. So we need to create a chaos in a country that will invade. That way the security is getting out of hand in their own country. Why would they want to have a war? As they always be very cheap compared to real destructive and mass lethal war. Yeah, so it's cheaper. It's just creating chaos in a country that try to create a war, infiltrate, and self-destruct. So any late reaction toward undetected war sign must also consider a preemptive war to prevent a war. It includes negotiation while eliminating or destroying the war tools while still concentrated in one single barrack or warehouse of military base. So while they're forming the regrouping or building up a military base to advance in a war, it needs to be eliminated before it's actually attacking. So it's preemptive is better than in the receiver of war. So attacking them while in the move is is easier compared to when they start attacking and we try to defending it. It's more difficult. It's easier to eliminate while they're still doing the war exercise, or simply eliminating the brain of the aggressors. A single shot to the head to the aggressors that will put an end to the war. Now, how much is this a single bullet? Considering a single megalomaniac psycho that will give suffering to million people, I think it's justified to save the world instead of one person that is megalomaniac and psycho. Any elimination of warmongering leaders should be welcome and appreciated compared to a stupid war that will cost their own life and their own family life and the neighbors and the countrymen. If the military schools taught their students to fight the war at the brain, the war peace can be realized quicker. So killing the war is the smart war actually. So killing the war is the tomorrow war strategy. Instead of nowadays fireman strategy, which is to put out the fire of a war. So killing the war while it's still formed, it's way cheaper and smarter and sounds more scientific. So there is a funny retarded war strategy when sending regular military force to attack until death everywhere and everybody got worn out. So the next wave, if the fresh, ruthless mercenaries like the Wagner to do the final push. This is the Putin strategy in the war. They send the regular military people to fight in a war till death, and then when they all die, then they send the final push called the Wagner, which is not professional war military people. So this is a bunch of stupid people try to earn some money, and going to the war is like in a manly way, not friendly way. So strength and chaos by the Wagner compared to a bit scientific soldiers that is graduated from the military academy is completely different. So the way Putin thinking is just ridiculous and doesn't work. Any peace negotiation to end the war is only easy when there is a significant leverage or keep winning in the battle. So winning in the battle is a good leverage to force a country to come to the table before promising more destruction occurring. So that forced them to get to the table and just to agree to anything. So without this leverage, without bargaining chip, they cannot achieve any negotiation or peace talk. Modern or progressive or liberal or democratic or scientific military style is more easier to develop, while Iron Man or strongman style will only work for coercion. So a strongman style will only work for coercion based on fear. Fear mongering and angry style will create conflict and actually never promise an everlasting peace, nor a peace deal at all. And external accountability, audit inspectors and oversight body will strengthen and verify each military strategy and action. So it is a must that military must have an oversight body that keep questioning their strategy and the result and accountability. After they attack, what do they get? After killing that much people, how much they get? If they get nothing, the audit or the inspectors should speak up and cancel the war. Besides, this is a way to eliminate or get rid of the unfiltered lies and power tricks. That we are winning. So they have to come up with numbers, number of death, number of how much it costs, how many tanks, how many military jet was down, how many missiles fired, and what's the result. If the result nothing, then the inspectors or oversight should speak up and cancel the war right away. So it is in a great need of the inspector's body or the audit body in the military, so that way the war can be conducted in a smart way, not wasteful. All right, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Hopefully the military gets smarter and just be scientific, be smart, not keep firing for no reason, for no target, and just wasteful war, unnecessary. Seems like the academy that they spend time in to be graduated as a professional military, it's a fraud. What kind of academy that doesn't teach the right way? Thank you.